Part 43. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 423. 421. Grandma Chi-san told these people in advance, worried that they would not be used to it. Difficult conditions can be overcome, but if there is a gap in people's hearts, it will cause family disharmony. Anna smiled and said, "Mom, it is indeed a bit uncomfortable, but this is our home, we will overcome it, you don't have to worry about us." "Yes, Mom, don't worry," Chi Shuliang said, "even if he wanted to stay here for a while, it would be impossible. Besides, this is where he grew up and he's used to it." Just afraid of the two children. Chi Zhengan and Chi Zhenmin are really not used to it, especially when going to the toilet. They are worried that they will fall into the latrine, and the latrine is very smelly. However, they were all good children and did not want to make Grandma sad, so they nodded and said, "Don't worry, Grandma, we will get used to it in 2 days." "That's good." Grandma Chi-san smiled, and these children also comforted her. Bai Qianjiao smiled and said, "Sister Chi, we have been mentally prepared before coming, so don't think too much about it. The living conditions here are indeed very poor, but there is nothing we can do about it. Compared with the pain of missing loved ones, the inconvenience in life is nothing." "Listening to what you said, I feel better," Grandma Chi-san said. She is used to living here. Even if her closest relatives say that this place cannot be tolerated, she will feel sad. He Tian boiled 2 large pots of water for everyone to wash up, and said, "Okay, it's late, the hot water has been boiled, you can wash up quickly. We are on the train, and after we come back, we will be busy all day. All very tired." As the owner, He Tian has to take care of these outsiders. Although she is not Grandma Chi-san's biological granddaughter, she has lived here for a long time and is used to working, so it falls to He Tian to take care of everyone. Sweet body. But these are her relatives, and He Tian is happy. He Tian had already written the names on the wooden basins she bought so that they would not use them incorrectly. After everyone simply washed up, they returned to the room to rest. Sleeping on the hard bed with quilts at night, Chi Shuliang hugged Anna and said, "Anna, I have wronged you." "My dear, I will never be wronged," Anna said, "this is your home and your root. As your lover, I will accept what you people value the most." "Thank you. Marrying you is the greatest happiness of my life," Chi Shuliang said movedly. In his heart, Anna was like a princess living in the castle. He promised his father-in-law that Anna would not be wronged. The material life here is something Anna has never been exposed to before. "Me too," Anna smiled, "My dear, you are tired, go to sleep." Fortunately, the bed in He Tian's room was big enough to sleep 3 people. Although it was a bit crowded, Bai Qianjiao and Xianglan were very happy because this could bring them closer to He Tian. He Tian was busy, bringing hot water to Bai Qianjiao and Xianglan for them to wash their faces and feet and clean their personal hygiene. When they got to bed, Bai Qianjiao felt a little excited thinking about sleeping with He Tian. By the time He Tian packed up and came in, it was already half an hour later. He Tian put on her pajamas and got into bed. "Now I am covered with a thin quilt." 3 people built 2 beds in case there were not enough. When they got to bed, He Tian saw her grandmother holding a book in her hand, wearing glasses, and reading with an oil lamp. "Grandma, there are no bright electric lights here, only oil lamps as dim as beans. You can't read at night because it hurts your eyes," He Tian said. "If you want to read, you can do it during the day tomorrow." Bai Qianjiao closed the book, patted the place beside him and said, "Come here and sleep quickly." He Tian opened the quilt, slept next to her grandmother, and then blew out the oil lamp. Xianglan slept on the other side, and He Tian and Bai Qianjiao slept on the other side. Sleeping like this would make it more spacious. "Tian, you have lived in country before. Are you used to it after you come back? Bai Qianjiao asked. Today she saw He Tian working everywhere like a hard-working bee, without stopping for a moment. Is there anything I'm not used to? I've lived here for such a long time, He Tian said. I have to say that life in country M is convenient. Then do you want to go back with me this time? Bai Qianjiao asked. She came to recognize her relatives this time. As long as her son's family is willing, she will take them away no matter what the price. He Tian thought for a moment and said, Grandma, I don't want to go. Are you reluctant to leave your parents? Bai Qianjiao said, I just told your father that as long as they are willing, I can take you all out. You know, I have this ability. If his parents also agreed to go to country M, He Tian's reason for not wanting to leave his parents would be a bit far-fetched. He Tian knew very clearly that if she followed her grandmother, she might not be able to be with Huo Yingjia in this life. Because Huo Yingjia works, her political review may not pass. Even if Huo Yingjia gives up his job now, it is already too late, because Huo Yingjia has participated in many major projects and knows many secrets. As a result, He Tian was in a dilemma and didn't know how to answer. Hey, I know what you are thinking, Bai Qianjiao said. You are worried that if you go to country M, you and Huo Yingjia will drift apart and lose their fate. He Tian smiled awkwardly and said, Grandma, the relationship between Huo Yingjia and I will not change just because of time and distance. What is hindering us now is political factors. I will do whatever it takes for love, just like when I was young, Bai Qianjiao said. I could secretly come to Nanxi with your grandfather behind my father's back. I know that when love comes, I will do whatever it takes, so I won't stop you. I just want to say that if you are tired and wronged, please don't forget that you still have your parents and grandmother, and we will always welcome you back. Thank you, Grandma, He Tian said. Being with Huo Yingjia has been her lifelong obsession. Even if it's like a moth flying into a flame, she has to pounce on it and experience it. No need to thank me, Bai Qianjiao said, because I know you have a temperament like mine. Once you make a decision, you won't change it easily, especially your feelings. Unless you are hurt or in pain, you will never look back. Grandma, you are so kind, He Tian smiled and praised her grandmother. Her family respects her choice and does not make it difficult for her, but they have always been He Tian's warm harbor. Xianglin listened to the conversation between her grandfather and grandson, and said with a smile, Okay, it's very late, go to bed early. Otherwise, you won't be able to get up tomorrow morning. Grandma, good night, Grandma Lan, He Tian whispered and closed her eyes. Good night, Bai Qianjiao said. Her mood had been ups and downs today, and she was indeed tired. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 424. 422. He Tian closed her eyes, still thinking about things in her mind and not falling asleep. I am busy during the day and have no time to deal with my own affairs. I can only use my time at night. Gilo me. He Tian whispered softly in her heart. She missed the Snake King. The Snake King woke up from his training in a daze, felt the familiar atmosphere of Kijia village, and said, We are back, aren't we? Yes, I'm back, He Tian said. Grandma and Grandma Lan are sleeping next to me now, and I can't take you to the back mountain. The Snake King scanned the situation outside, thought for a while, nodded and said, It's okay, I can go by myself. That's right, He Tian then remembered that the Snake King had been upgraded and was no longer the little silver snake that could only spin around her ankles. The Snake King is awesome. It's all my fault that I have so many things to do and forget about it. You have a lot to do, the Snake King said sadly. I'm sorry, Snake King, He Tian apologized. I will stay with you until everything calms down. Well, then you can go to sleep. I'm going to the back mountain, Snake King said. If anything happens, you can summon me. I know, King Snake He Tien Tien responded repeatedly, and saw a faint golden light leaving the window. When they arrived at the cave in the back mountain, the Snake King talked to He Tien Tien and started practicing. He Tien Tien, who was no longer worried, also slowly fell asleep. The next morning, He Tien Tien got up early. The day's plan begins in the morning, so He Tien Tien takes a pole and bucket to fetch water. Qi Zhenmin followed He Tien Tien like a little tail and said, "Sister Tien Tien, are we going to fetch water?" "Yes, we don't have running water here, only mountain spring water," He Tien Tien smiled, "but you will fall in love with the sweet spring water here. There are many people carrying water at the edge of the pool." He Tien Tien kept greeting everyone. Qi Zhenmin is also very well behaved. She calls others whatever He Tien Tien calls them, which is praised by everyone. On the way back, Qi Zhenmin asked, "Sister Tien Tien, isn't it dirty if the pool is left open like this? Look at the clean water in this bucket, do you think it's dirty?" He Tien Tien asked. "This pool is the treasure of Kijia village. There is a wooden fence half a person's height around it. Children and small animals cannot get close to it. It's not dirty." Qi Zhenmin looked at the clear spring water in the bucket and answered truthfully. "This is a gift from nature." "Of course it is not dirty," He Tien Tien said, "even if it is dirty, it is caused by us humans, not nature." Qi Zhenmin was thoughtful. "After going back and forth, 7 or 8 times, I finally filled the big water tank at home. For breakfast, Wang Shuping and Liang Hongyu came to help, cooking rice porridge and preparing side dishes. Wang Shuping cooked another egg for each person. This was breakfast. After breakfast, Qi Zhenmin scratched his head and said to everyone, "I found that even such a simple breakfast tastes delicious when I get here. You know, in country M, I would never be happy to eat this for breakfast." "Silly girl, that's because you can eat a lot in country M, but there is less here. If you don't eat, you will be hungry. When you are hungry, everything tastes delicious." Grandma Chi San laughed loudly, "You should cherish the food when you go back from now on." Anna smiled and said, "Mom, I think it tastes good too. I found that the water and rice here are different from those in country M." "Of course it's different," Qi Shuliang said. "The water Tien Tien picked up in the morning is mountain spring water that has been passed down in our village for hundreds of years. It is cool and sweet. The rice used to make porridge is grown locally using farmyard manure, and the yield is very low. The taste is much better than the rice grown with enough chemical fertilizers in the United States." "Is this really true?" Anna blinked her green eyes, very curious. "Brother, you are engaged in agricultural research, don't you think so?" Qi Shuliang asked. There were 2 experts beside him, so he asked on the spot. He Jingyu smiled and said, "The effect of chemical fertilizers is obvious to all. It can greatly increase the yield. It does affect the taste, but it is not very obvious. Don't worry too much. The most important thing is that the water here is good. After all, China has not yet reached the point where all chemical fertilizers are used, and the understanding in this regard is not profound. However, as those who study agriculture, we all know that chemical fertilizers are a good thing, but we also understand that proper use of chemical fertilizers is good for trees, but excessive use of chemical fertilizers is not beneficial. It's just that there aren't that many chemical fertilizers in China right now, so even if you want to increase your income, it's impossible." Thinking of the Daowen on the mountain, Qi Zhenmin wore a pair of old cloth shoes from He Tien Tien. They didn't fit her feet a bit, so he just wore 2 pairs of socks and followed them up the mountain. So He Tien Tien took Qi Zhenmin and Qi Zhengan on a half-day trip to the Daowen garden in Back Mountain. When they arrived at the peach orchard, most of the peaches on the trees had been picked and put in baskets. There is a layer of soft grass in the basket, and each peach is spaced apart to prevent collision and damage to the peach. Qi Zhenmin wanted to eat, but He Jingyu winked at them. He had secretly stored 3 large baskets of peaches and placed them in the cellar. After picking them all, they weighed more than 3,000 kilograms. It took 4 ox carts to load the peaches. Secretary Chi took Chi Shulai, Chi Shuming, Chi Shujen, and He Jingyu to the county town to hand in tasks. When he came back in the evening, village chief Chi was very happy. The peaches were rated as special grade peaches and cost 60 cents a pound. You know, pork now only costs 70 cents a pound. Not only is the price high, but 1 pound of peaches can be exchanged for 1 pound of food stamps. This means that the more than 3,000 caddies of peaches in Kijia village can be exchanged for more than 3,000 caddies of food stamps. Each family can get a share of money, and they can also get food stamps as industrial stamps. The rewards for He Jingyu and Wang Shuping will be rewarded together by the province and the city after the report is submitted to the province. Brother He, these are just over 100 trees, and they can be sold for so much money. If there are 1,000, 10,000, or 100,000 trees, how much will they cost? Chi Dazu said with a smile. These are all the golden pimple in the village. Haha, I hope peaches will be so expensive in the future, He Jingyu said. Now that the farming is slack, before we go to the river, we will open up a few low mountains first. There are a lot of materials on them that can be used as farm fertilizer. When the fertility is sufficient next spring, we can transplant peach saplings directly. Chi Dazu nodded and asked, Brother He, how many seedlings are there in the Daowen? Last year, due to limited energy, Shuping and I planted more than 1,300 plants, which is estimated to be enough for 40 acres and 3 acres of land, and enough for 1 hilltop, He Jingyu said. After all, there was no result last year, and he didn't have any results. This allowed village chief Chi to send people to help, so not many peach saplings were produced. It's not that the couple doesn't want to do more, it's just that they don't have enough energy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 425. 423. It's all because he has no foresight? Hey, it's all my fault for not paying attention. If I paid more attention, maybe I could get more seedlings last year, Chi Dazu said regretfully. Let's do this, Brother He, we will open up wasteland and cultivate seedlings at the same time, and try to get the remaining few seedlings, get out all the seedlings on the mountain. Aren't you afraid that there will be too many peaches and you won't be able to sell them? He Jingyu asked with a smile. Don't be afraid, our peaches are so good, and we are still in Daowen County. There are many peaches, so we don't have to worry about selling them, village chief Chi said. If they are really bad and cannot be sold, we can eat them ourselves, or we can secretly take them out. Go and exchange with others. Anyway, this is grown in the barren mountains. It does not occupy farmland, and it is what we in Kijia village earn. That's right, He Jingyu said. Okay, let's build a few more greenhouses in the Daowen this year and try to get more seedlings. After all, the seedlings bear fruit in 3 years. If you do it 1 year earlier, the fruit will grow earlier. Back in the village, the people in Kijia village were very happy when they heard that the food was sold at a price similar to that of meat. This meant that they could get a lot of money and food during the Chinese New Year. Chi Shuliang had already chosen a date and went to tell Niu Niupeng in person. That day, men from Kijia village, old and young, came over to help. The leaders of Hawaii City came again, with a better attitude than last time, and brought many wreaths. That batch of peaches had been shipped directly to Yanjing after village chief Chi had delivered them to the county town. Village Chief Ma's work has been praised by provincial leaders, and even his old boss revealed that he may take a step further next year. This is all the credit of Kijia village and He Jingyu. When he came this time, Village Chief Ma also brought He Jingyu a second-class merit certificate and a reward of 500 yuan, as well as 500 kilograms of food stamps, and some messy industrial coupons. Qi Shuliang took his son Qi Zhengan and the men close to him to go up the mountain to worship their ancestors. After 3 bows and 9 kowtows, Qi Shuliang lay on his father's grave crying and kept saying, "My son is unfilial, my son is unfilial, I failed to provide for my father." Originally, women were not allowed to worship ancestors, but now that we are in a new society, there are not as many things to pay attention to as before, so Anna took her children to kowtow to her father-in-law. He Jingyu and Wang Shuping followed closely, taking He Tiantian to kowtow. They accepted Grandma Qi San as their foster mother. This old man was their foster father, and it was appropriate to kowtow. Then comes the leadership worship, but there is no need to kowtow, just bow. Almost all the men in the village came to kowtow in worship. After the man left, Qi Shuliang found the cut paper money and took Qi Dazu, Qi Shuming and a few other close friends with him, and began to burn the paper money for his old father, hoping that the old father would have money to spend underground, and he could spend it as he pleased. In the evening, the brothers came home and talked about the past. After completing the ancestor worship, Qi Shuliang felt depressed for a while. He took time every day to sit on his father's grave and talk to his father about what happened over the years. "Sometimes I get some food from home, bring a bottle of wine and 2 glasses, drink 1 glass, and pour 1 glass on my father's grave." In this way, several days passed before Qi Shuliang slowly recovered. Now that his father is gone, he wants to take care of the family and support his mother, wife, and children. Qi Zhengan and Qi Zhenmin, 2 brothers and sisters, have followed He Tiantian all over the mountains and fields for the past 2 days, picking wild fruits and mushrooms, digging traps, and catching prey. Live a colorful life every day. Qi Zhenmin was a little too happy to miss Shu. At this time, Qi Zhenmin was holding a fish stuck on a branch and roasting it on the fire. "This is a freshly caught fish, very fresh." He Tiantian brought some ingredients with her, and after cleaning the fish, she started roasting it on the fire. "Sister Tiantian, the mountains are so fun," Qi Zhenmin said, "I don't want to go back." "Brother, you and your parents can go back after a while. I'll stay here." Qi Zhengan smiled and said, "Aren't you going to study anymore?" "It's not like Sister Tiantian isn't studying either," Qi Zhenmin said, "anyway, I think it's pretty good here. Although it's very simple, it's very interesting. You can go up the mountain every day, pick fruits, catch fish, and catch rabbits, which is better than what I did in school. Learning to dance is much better." "Haha, Mom won't agree to it anyway," Qi Zhengan shrugged, not taking it seriously. He Tiantian smiled and said, "Zhenmin, you just came here and you think it's interesting here. But after a long time, you don't like it here. Look at the little girl over there. She has to go up the mountain to pick fruits and dry goods every day to support her family. Even if you don't have to work, you will feel bored if you do it every day." "I don't care, I like it very much now anyway," Qi Zhenmin said. "By the way, Sister Tiantian, shall we go see if there is any prey in the trap next?" "Yes," He Tiantian said, "if yes, we will have extra food tonight. I'm lucky today. There are 2 rabbits in the trap. I can stew rabbit meat for dinner at night." Qi Zhengan also likes this kind of activity. Every time he goes into the trap with a rope tied around his waist and takes out the prey. Qi Zhenmin was jumping in front, He Tiantian, and Qi Zhengan walked behind. "Do you want to go back?" He Tiantian asked. Qi Zhengan was past that playful age. Qi Zhengan looked around, thought for a while, and said, "The scenery here is very beautiful, but it is okay to travel occasionally, but not for long-term stay. I still like life in New York." This Qi Zhengan is very straightforward. He Tiantian can understand that if she hadn't spent many years here in her previous life, she wouldn't be used to it. "Yes, you belong to a big city like New York," He Tiantian said, "the mountains and rivers here, leave them to those of us who are adapted to it." Qi Zhengan frowned when he heard this. He had told He Tian before that he hoped she would stay in New York, but He Tian refused. Later, He Tian recognized her grandmother Bai Qianjiao. As the only heir of Bai Qianjiao, He Tian should follow her grandmother. After all, Bai Qianjiao has many industries that need to be inherited and managed. "Aren't you going back?" Qi Zhengan asked. "Your grandmother is in New York, why are you still here?" Qi Zhengan didn't want to hear the answer he guessed in his heart. He Tian smiled and said, "Things are not as simple as you think, just like you like to choose New York, and I like China." After He Tian finished speaking, she went after Qi Zhenmin. Qi Zhengan grabbed He Tian's hand and said, "Although I know you have a lover, it is immoral to say these words to you, but I still want to say, Tian, don't you think we are a perfect match in terms of age, appearance, and family background?" "Ah," He Tian was surprised, then smiled, and said, "We have never been a perfect match. I treat you as my brother, that's all. You are a gentleman and will know how to deal with yourself in the future. Can you let go of my hand now?" The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 426. 424. After He Tian finished speaking, he broke away from Qi Zhengan's hand and walked quickly towards Qi Zhenmin. Qi Zhengan had already expressed that he had other thoughts about her. He Tian kept refusing, but he still couldn't let Qi Zhengan give up. This made He Tian feel flustered and even felt guilty for not being able to respond to Qi Zhengan's love. Qi Zhengan was lost and lost. He couldn't wait to leave this place. Maybe if he hadn't seen He Tian, he wouldn't have lost his mind. He said such ungentlemanly words and offended He Tian. Seeing that her brother was in a bad mood, Qi Zhenmin thought she was angry that she didn't like studying, so she cautiously walked with He Tian and stayed away from her brother. When they came down the mountain, they saw Anna holding a plywood and drawing on the bank of the underground river at the foot of the mountain, with Qi Shuliang watching from the side. Although it is just a simple sketch, the beauty here can be seen in Anna's skillful hands. While Qi Shuliang was living an ordinary life with his family, Qi Shulai was chatting at home with two villagers from his family who had a good relationship. Second brother, when Qi Shuliang comes back, Qi Dazu's branch is getting more and more prosperous, and ours is getting worse and worse. Qi Shuguang whispered, "Although I became the first captain, many people are dissatisfied with me. Now many people don't take us seriously." "Yes, second brother, you have to think of a way," Qi Shenyu said. "What benefits the village has now have nothing to do with us, and we can't get any good things." How could Qi Shulai not know the current situation? It's just that there are too many external forces mixed in the village, which is simply not something that he, a little accountant, can contend with. Not to mention the big leaders in the city, even Magistrate Niu of Daowen County, he didn't dare to offend. Hey, we can't act rashly now. With such a good opportunity before, we couldn't defeat Qi Dazu, let alone now Qi Shulai side. He had always been at odds with Qi Dazu. They used to be at odds with each other, but now we can't even save face. I don't care anymore, the relationship is very bad. If there weren't many people in their group, Qi Dazu would have taken down this accounting position long ago. By the way, second brother, Qi Shuliang is from country M. Can we expose Qi Dazu? Qi Shuliang has overseas connections and is a collaborator with the country, Qi Shuguang asked. He heard that in the past, anyone with relatives abroad had to be investigated. When Qi Shulai heard this, he glared at Qi Shuguang and cursed, "You idiot, look at how many returned overseas Chinese in the country have returned to their hometowns to worship their ancestors, and they are still in such a tense situation. I'm just talking. Qi Shuliang does have overseas connections, and Qi Dazu is very close to them. If we report it, we may be able to make great contributions. If Qi Dazu falls, Qijia village will fall into our group. In this way, if so, we can get more things," Qi Shuguang said unconvinced. The village had a bumper harvest, and there were usually prey for sale. Now the peaches in Daowen are also produced, and they are sold at a price similar to pork. The income in Kijia village is increasing. Whoever has the power can get more things. Otherwise, Chi Dazu's family can eat well, drink spicy food, and live a much better life than others. You idiot, you can hear what I just said, Chi Shulai scolded. Then Chi Shuliang can come from Yanjing with great fanfare, and there are so many leaders accompanying him, he must be doing it for the superiors. You've done your best. What's the point of reporting it after you've gone too far? Besides, can we continue to stay in the village once we find out that we're the one who reported it? Qi Shenyu also echoed, Shugwang, you think the problem is too one-sided? The second brother is right, Qi Shuliang has passed the clear road, and the leaders above agreed. Once the leak is reported by us, we will become a crossroads rat, everyone shouted. After all, the villagers have been dazzled by the things Qi Shuliang gave them, and they want to get more things from Qi Shuliang. Qi Shulai nodded and said, Shu Niu is right, Shu Guang, you don't want to act out of emotion in the future. Doing that will definitely not do us any good. But we just sit back and watch Qi Dazu come over us and take possession of the good things in the village, Qi Shugwang said dissatisfied. There were so many good things in the village, but he couldn't reach them, and he felt uncomfortable. Qi Shulai is an accountant, so he naturally knows the true situation of Qi Dazu, and he really doesn't take anything from the village. I can see it, Qi Shenyu said. I also saw Zhang Niansheng sneer at what Niu Peng said several times and look very disdainful. Second brother, there is a way, Qi Shugwang said, maybe we should take the path of Zhang Niansheng in the county. Don't think about things too simply. Why do they want to get involved with us two farmers? Qi Shenyu said, there is a conflict between Zhang Niansheng and Niu Peng. If Niu Peng falls, Qi Dazu will also be unlucky, but if we get involved, we will become pawns, and we will not end well. Although Qi Shenyu doesn't talk much, he always gets to the point. Yes, Shugwang, Shenyu is right, Qi Shulai said, although this is an opportunity, if it doesn't work, we will be cannon fodder and the target of sacrifice, so we should not act rashly to avoid getting burned. Don't be anxious, you will get the opportunity one day. Hey, what a pity those good things are, Qi Shugwang said. By the way, will the village organize people to go hunting this year? I probably won't go. The back mountain is very deserted. The wild rabbits and pheasants are all gone. They were all killed off the year before last, Qi Shulai said. You don't have to worry. Qi Dazu has got so many good things, and every household can get them some. Yes, the three of them each had their own thoughts, thinking about what would be most beneficial. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 427. 425. Qi Dazu began to arrange for people to open up wasteland, hoping to finish the hilltop as soon as possible to facilitate the transplantation of saplings next year. In 10 days, they would start going to Pahe River, so they had to hurry up and not delay. He Jingyu and Wang Shuping, as commander-in-chief, were also busy. Most of the work at home falls on He Tian, and Qi Daniu comes to help when she has free time. He Tian had brought a pair of brown leather shoes to Qi Daniu from country M. In fact, girls look better in red and white, but the current national conditions do not allow girls to wear so fancy, so they choose shoes with better styles and darker colors. Qi Daniu came often, so she and Qi Zhenmin also became friends. Anna sometimes helped wash the dishes and let her go into the kitchen to cook, which was too difficult for her. Village Chief Qi's prestige in the village has never been higher than before. Everyone is very motivated to open up wasteland. It took 8 days to complete the wasteland reclamation. Village Chief Qi counted the number of people and took the young and middle-aged people in the village to plow the river, leaving some women behind to use the withered grass branches and so on at home to make fertilizer according to the requirements of He Jingyu and Wang Shuping for next year's use. Time passed very quickly, and in a blink of an eye, Qi Shuliang and his people had been here for more than 20 days. Seeing that the date of departure was coming soon, Qi Shuliang was a little impatient because his mother refused to leave. "Mother, we have all left. We are not worried if you stay alone," Qi Shuliang said, trying his best to persuade his mother, hoping that she would leave with him. Grandma Qi-san had already decided that she would not go out this time. "Son, I won't go because of my mother," Grandma Qi-san said. "I know that you are living a good life. I am in country M. Although I am very happy, I am still used to the life here. Now you have a future. My life is better here, and no one will make things difficult for me." "But mother, my son misses you," Qi Shuliang said. "If you are alone, your son will not be at ease no matter where he goes." "Well, you have been away from home for so many years, and you have not been a good mother," Grandma Qi-san said. "Besides, there are people like your Dazu brother and sister-in-law in the village who can take care of me. Tian Tian and her parents are also be with me, so I'm not alone. You don't have to worry about someone taking care of me." Qi Shuliang was embarrassed and scratched his meticulously combed hair, feeling very irritated. At this moment, Qi Zhenmin came in from outside and said, "Dad, I'll stay here to honor your grandmother for you." "Ah," Qi Shuliang was surprised. He hadn't coaxed the old one yet, but here comes another disobedient one with black lines all over his head. "Dad, I'm staying with my grandmother," Qi Zhenmin said. "I like it here and I want to stay." "No, Zhenmin, aren't you going to school?" Grandma Qi-san was moved, but she would not agree to her granddaughter staying. "Now is the age to go to school, so we can't let our studies go to waste." "Grandma, I can teach myself," Qi Zhenmin said. "Grandma is getting old and doesn't want to leave her homeland. If you can't be filial to your grandmother, then let me stay." Anna heard what her daughter said outside and wanted to dissuade her, but she was worried that it would offend her daughter and make her husband and mother-in-law unhappy. Anna is really not used to it here. She wants to go back to New York. "Zhenmin, Grandma knows that you are a good child, but you are still young and must go to school. When you grow up and complete your studies, you can come and stay with me," Grandma Qi-san said. She also wanted her granddaughter to stay with her. "Love her, but she is harming the child." Qi Shuliang thought for a moment and said, "Mom, let Zhenmin stay. You can study on your own." "No," Grandma Qi-san said. Anna was very unaccustomed to being here, and she could see it. Qi Zhenmin is Anna's daughter, and she probably doesn't want her to stay. She can't make her daughter-in-law unhappy because of her stubbornness, let alone delay her granddaughter's studies. Just when Grandma Qi-san and Qi Shuliang were discussing whether to stay or go, Bai Qianjiao also called He Jingyu, Wang Shuping, and He Tian Tian. "I'm leaving in a few days. Business in New York cannot be separated from people. I want to ask, what are your plans?" Bai Qianjiao said hopefully, hoping in her heart that her son's family would go back with her. Someone must inherit her huge family fortune. He Jingyu thought for a while and said, "I have discussed this matter with Shuping and Tian Tian. This is what I think. Now that Tian Tian is not old enough and she and Huo Yingjia are not married yet, we don't worry about Tian Tian being alone. Domestic. When she gets married to Huo Yingjia and someone takes care of her, we will go to country M and be filial to you." Bai Qianjiao was a little disappointed, but it was a good result that her son did not refuse to go to country M. "Yes, this girl Tian Tian doesn't want to go. You don't have to worry about staying alone in the country," Bai Qianjiao said. "Okay, I'll go back first and wait for you in country M." Seeing that his mother was not forcing herself, He Jingyu felt less nervous and said with a smile, "Mom, you are in good health, take care of yourself." "Okay, I'll wait for a few more years before retiring," Grandma Qi-san said. "The matter is settled like this, and I won't make it difficult for you. By the way, when I come back, I want to go to Nanji to pay homage to you." "'S father." Husband and wife once truly loved each other. Now that they are here, they have to go and see them. Okay, you can decide when the time is right and I'll take you there. He Jingyu said that his father could not let go of his mother until he died, and perhaps his father also wanted his mother to visit him. Then let's do it tomorrow, Bai Qianjiao said. Then we'll wait for Mr. Qi in Nanji. Bai Qianjiao said that the special train needs to be coordinated and stop in Nanji. After the discussion, He Jingyu went to Qi Shuliang to tell him that his mother was going to Nanji to pay homage to his father, and happened to hear his adopted brother and his adoptive mother arguing. Brother, excuse me. He Jingyu smiled and said, don't worry, Shuping and I are still at home. Tian, I promise to take good care of my foster mother. Grandma Qi San and Qi Shuliang were both surprised. Jingyu, aren't you going to country M with your mother? Grandma Qi San asked. She had already guessed the outcome. Sister Bai must be very sad. He Jingyu smiled and said, I'm not going now. Tian and Yingjia are not very old. When they get married, Shuping and I will go to honor our mother. Grandma Qi San understood, nodded, and said, yes, it is indeed inconvenient to go back to Tian. Shuliang, you have seen it, your sworn brother and his family are all here, so what should I be afraid of? Seeing his mother's determination, Qi Shuliang had no choice but to agree and said, Mom, then take care of yourself and I will come see you when I have time. That's it, it's settled. Grandma Qi San smiled. By the way, Jingyu, are you okay? It's something. My mother wants to go to Nanji to pay homage to my father. I want to take her to Nanji first. Then when you pass by Nanji, the train stops and picks up my mother. He Jingyu, he said, after all, the distance from Nanji to Yanjing is too long, and my mother must not be able to rest well in an ordinary sleeper. Please subscribe to the original version, don't skip the subscription, woo woo woo. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 428. 426. As a sworn brother, he has a better way. Qi Shuliang thought for a while and said, you don't have to go there in advance. I will negotiate with the people in Huai City. We will stay in Nan City for 2 days. We will pay homage to the compatriots who suffered the Nanjing massacre on the first day, and we will go the next day. Pay homage to your father, who is also my adoptive father. Is this okay? He Jingyu was overjoyed. If this was the case, he wouldn't have to take his mother to the train. It should be possible, I'll give it a try. Qi Shuliang said, don't worry, I'll coordinate first. Thank you so much, adopted brother. He Jingyu said gratefully and wanted to tell his wife about this. They had been here for more than a year and wanted to go back to their hometown to visit. Why should we brothers be so polite? You help me take care of my mother, and I haven't even said thank you to you yet, Qi Shuliang said with a smile. He valued He Jingyu very much, so he was naturally willing to do this. Furthermore, Bai Qianjiao is a respectable senior and deserves her to do this. Bai Qianjiao was also very happy to receive the news brought by He Jingyu. After all, the special train was in better condition than the ordinary train. This year, the task of plowing the river in Kijia village was only 1,000 meters, and it was completed in 1 week. When Qi Dazu comes back, Qi Shuliang will be ready to leave. Qi Shuliang's application has been approved by the relevant departments and he will stay in Nanji for 2 days. He Tian followed her parents, Bai Qianjiao and Qi Shuliang's family on a special train to Nanji. He Tian looked at the familiar train station. It had been almost 2 years since she last came to Nanji. Time flies. He Jingyu and Wang Shuping were also disappointed. They were born in Nanji and grew up in Nanji. When they reach middle age, they have to move to other places. The leaders of Nan City came over and led everyone to the massacre memorial hall to pay their respects. After having dinner together at the guest house at noon, Wang Shuping took her mother-in-law and Xianglan back to Daolm Lane. Bai Qianjiao looked at the two thick elm trees from a distance, a little distracted, and said, "Xianglan, look, those two big elm trees are still there." "Yes, when we came here, we said it would be hundreds of years old. It has been more than 30 years, but it is stronger than before," Xianglan said, looking at the surrounding buildings. They were very different from before. "Grandma, our house is in the alley over there," Tian pointed to the big elm tree. "Our old man here said that there are hundreds of big elm trees here. They have spirituality and protect the people." "Haha, we have heard of it before," Bai Qianjiao said. He Jinming had also told her about it back then, with the same expression as the little girl in front of him. Anna looked around, observing the urban area of Country H. Along the alley, I met acquaintances from time to time. Wang Shuping Tian kept saying hello to everyone. When passing by the door of Huo's house, the door was locked. Zhang Lifang and Huo Jekan should have gone to work. I have sent them a telegram before and they should be back as soon as possible after get off work. Arriving at the door of her home, Wang Shuping took out her key, opened the big lock on the door, and pushed open the heavy door. The yard is very clean, it can be seen that there are often people cleaning it. I opened the main room and let some air in. The sun outside was very good, so Wang Shuping took out the quilt at home to dry it, and they planned to stay at home at night. "Oh, there are so many persimmons this year," Tian said in surprise. "The persimmons on the branches have turned red and ripe." "Sister Tian, is this delicious?" Qi Jinmin licked his mouth and asked. Sister Tian is a foodie. If Sister Tian says something delicious, it must taste good. "It's very delicious," Tian said. "I will pick some for you tomorrow. You can take it with you and put it at home for a while. It will taste better when it becomes soft." Bai Qianjiao, "Xianglan, look at this yard. There are too many bad memories for them in this yard." Seeing Wang Shuping taking out all the quilts to dry them, Bai Qianjiao said, "Shuping, we will leave tomorrow. You don't need to bother me. I'll stay in the guest house." Wang Shuping was stunned and looked at her daughter. Tian vaguely knew from her father and grandmother that her grandmother was not happy here. Since her grandmother didn't want to live here, forget it. "Mom, just clean up my house and yours," Tian said. "Let grandma stay in the guest house. There is a bathroom there. Grandma can take a good bath to relieve her fatigue." "Okay then," Wang Shuping said, "I have the ticket in my hand. I'll go buy something and have dinner here, okay?" Tian thought that there was no fresh food in the supply and marketing cooperative now, so she laughed and said, "Mom, you are confused, are you? It's already afternoon, what other ingredients can the supply and marketing cooperative have? Let's pack it up and drink some tea. Rest for a while and go to the guest house for dinner in the evening." "Oh, how could I forget this?" Wang Shuping smiled bitterly. She had spent so much time in Kijia village that she had forgotten the days when she got up early to go to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy things. At this time, Zhang Lifang came back and came over quickly when she heard the noise here. Tian, Shuping," Zhang Lifang said excitedly, "we haven't seen each other for more than a year, and I miss you so much." Zhang Lifang pinched Tianation's little fleshy face, and her daughter-in-law became more and more beautiful. Aunt Zhang Tian smiled, "I'll go to your house to get some briquettes and boil some hot water at home. There are plenty in the kitchen, feel free to take them," Zhang Lifang said with a smile. "By the way, I bought all the things in the kitchen this morning. You can bring them all." Tian first used a basket to take 10 coal balls, which she estimated would last for 2 days. She then took a red coal ball and a burnt honeycomb coal from the stove and placed them at the bottom, and a new honeycomb coal on the top. After the turbid water from the tap was cleared, she cleaned the pot and boiled water. Wang Shuping had already introduced Zhang Lifang to her mother-in-law Bai Qianjiao, and the three of them went into the house to talk and had a good time. Xianglan came over to help boil water. Shuping, some time ago, a woman in her 60s said she was a relative of yours and wanted to stay at your house. Although I had the key, I didn't know her, so I didn't let her family stay. Zhang Lifang said. I saw that woman's lips were thin, her cheekbones were high, and her eyes were flickering. She didn't look like an honest person at first glance. Ah, Wang Shuping was stunned. We don't have any relatives. By the way, what's that person's name? Wu Qifen. Zhang Lifang said. She said that He Jingyu is the grandson of her aunt's family and her cousin. Humph, Bai Qianjiao snorted, you still have the nerve to come back. When Bai Qianjiao heard this name, she thought of that disgusting woman, who was two-faced. She looked honest and mellow on the surface, but she was very scheming in her heart. She fooled the old lady of the He family around, and also made He Jinming think she was pure. Star. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 429. 427. Wang Shuping and Zhang Lifang were stunned and looked at Bai Qianjiao. Mom, do you know her? Wang Shuping asked curiously. I have never heard of such a relative in my family. Of course you don't know, Bai Qianjiao said. Before the massacre, Wu Qifen came to Nanxi from the countryside. My mother-in-law at the time liked this distant niece of her natal family very much, so she kept her. Later I got the news said that Nan City was not safe and asked everyone to go out and hide. Your father-in-law and your grandmother were not willing, so I carried Jingyu and Xianglan to Suzhou. Your father-in-law was worried about me, so he chased me and went to Suzhou. That happened. By the time your father-in-law returned to Nanxi, your grandmother had passed away, and Wu Qifen took the family's money and ran away. I don't know whether she escaped while your grandmother was alive or after her death. Oh my God, these are not relatives, they are enemies, Zhang Lifang said in surprise. She got the general idea from Wang Shuping's introduction and Bai Qianjiao's words. Fortunately, I didn't agree to let her family live in. Wang Shuping nodded and said, yes, we can't let them live in our home. He Tian boiled the water, washed the cups, and poured tea for everyone. The tea was brought from Kijia village and the wild camellia was picked. The adults were drinking tea, while He Tian went to prepare dinner, using things from Zhang Lifang's house. At this moment, a middle-aged woman and a child were looking around. When they saw someone inside, they came in. Is my cousin's wife at home? The old woman asked loudly, looking up and down at the surrounding houses. This was much better than the houses they rented. When Wang Shuping heard this, she looked at Zhang Lifang. Zhang Lifang nodded and said with a wry smile, that's the woman. Since you stole my family's things and didn't care about my grandmother's life and death, you are my family's enemy, Wang Shuping said. I will drive them away. He Tian came out of the kitchen and saw an old lady with a dark face, whom she didn't recognize at all. Who are you? He Tian asked. Did you go to the wrong door? When Wu Qifen saw He Tian's appearance, she took 2 steps back in fright. This little girl looked too much like her grandmother. She suffered a lot back then. If her aunt hadn't favored her, she wouldn't have been able to stay. Hey, if something like that hadn't happened, she might have become a couple with her cousin, and she wouldn't have had to live such a miserable life without meeting such a trashy man. Oh, I'm your cousin, the old woman said with a smile, showing her yellow teeth. He Tian took 2 steps back and said, I've never heard of such a relative in my family. What's your name? Who are you looking for? Oh, this kid is not too old or too young. Wu Qifen pretended to be so angry that she was so disgusted with He Tian's face that she wished she could scratch it. At this time, Wang Shuping came out of the house and said, it has been 10 years since my father-in-law passed away, and no relatives or friends have come to pay homage. At this time, you should not come here to recognize relatives. We do not have such relatives in our family. Oh, are you Jingyu's wife? Wu Qifen seemed familiar and very enthusiastic, as if she hadn't heard anything. I even hugged Jingyu when he was a child. At this time, Xianglin came out of the kitchen and cursed, "Fart, you are talking nonsense. You almost killed Master Jingyu back then. If I hadn't discovered it earlier, you would have died of suffocation while lying on your stomach, unable to breathe properly." You. Wu Qifen was startled. "Are you Xianglin?" "That's me." Xianglin stepped forward, slapped Wu Qifen twice, and continued to scold, "You are a shameless person, you are so ugly, and you still want to seduce me. Our Lady is kind, otherwise I would have let you go. I'll kill you. Why are you here? Didn't you go to country M? Wu Qifen said in surprise, and quickly covered her mouth after speaking. "How did you know that I returned to country M? Didn't you already escape?" Bai Qianjiao came out of the room and said expressionlessly. The final reason for her separation from He Jinming was the death of He Jinming's mother, and He Jinming blamed himself. At that time, Wu Qifen had packed up her belongings and ran away. She left half a year later. I guessed it," Wu Qifen stammered. "We haven't seen you for so many years, but you are still so beautiful." "This is the truth, Wu Qifen is jealous." "You go, the He family has no relatives like you," Bai Qianjiao said, not wanting to look at this hateful woman. "Seeing this face reminds me of what that woman once did." "No, cousin." Wu Qifen looked Bai Qianjiao up and down. "Oh my, now that you are rich, you have to recognize your relatives." At this time, He Jingyu came with Qi Shuliang and Qi Zhengan. What kind of relatives? He Jingyu was curious. He really had no relatives in his family. When my father passed away, only his colleagues came to pay his respects, and there were no relatives. Wu Qifen, Bai Qianjiao gritted her teeth and said, "This woman is evil-minded and not a good person." Wu Qifen, He Jingyu was stunned, and then he remembered who Wu Qifen was. He turned around and cursed loudly, "Get out! Get out of here!" Everyone was stunned, not expecting He Jingyu to react so strongly. Of course she was older. This woman took away their family's belongings and ran away despite her grandmother's death. After the peace was restored, he did not come back. It was obvious that he was swept away on purpose and no longer recognized this relative. He Jingyu said to the bodyguard standing in the yard, "Get this old woman out." The bodyguard of the Bai family stared at Wu Qifen with a burning gaze and a cold light. Wu Qifen was so frightened that she backed away repeatedly, but the child she was leading was unhappy and reached out to push the bodyguard. "Humph!" The bodyguard snorted and glared angrily, scaring the child into tears. "We are all relatives after all. How can you do this?" Wu Qifen forced herself to shout. "When your family becomes prosperous, you no longer recognize your relatives. Okay, return me the things you stole once, and I will recognize you as a relative." He Jingyu said, "You have taken away all the things from our family back then. If you don't take them out, you still want to quarrel with our family relatives, you think so? Get out of here." "I was trying to avoid being chased by the Japanese at that time, so I didn't take anything," Wu Qifen defended. "I really didn't take anything. It's a joke. Everything in the old lady's room has been disappeared, even the golden hairpin on the old lady's head is gone. The old lady's private room is hidden in a relatively hidden place. Except for you, not even Jinming and I know about it. You said you didn't take it? Besides, after all these years, if you have no intention of running away, why did you come to recognize me now?" Bai Qianjiao sneered, looking down on this disgusting woman. Our family is in the countryside. We are busy with things at home, so we were delayed," Wu Qifen defended. "As soon as I come back, I will come to recognize my relatives." The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 430. 428. Haha, it's really funny. the delay lasted for nearly 40 years. You are so busy, Hijinyu said, rolling around. Shitty relatives who haven't seen each other for decades suddenly come to the door. They have nothing to do but are attentive and either commit adultery or steal. Wu Qifen stepped back continuously and retreated outside the gate. Hijinyu closed the door hard and said, "Don't come to my house anymore. We don't have relatives like you." Even if Wu Qifen took the things, as long as she came back, she would be considered to have no worries. But this woman must have something going on in her heart after leaving for so many years and not coming back. Her grandmother's death must have something to do with her. Hijinyu would never recognize such a relative. "Okay, Dad, don't be angry because of these irrelevant people," He Tian persuaded. "It's all in the past, let's not continue to worry about it." Wang Shuping also tried to persuade her, "Okay, it's not worth getting angry for someone like that." Qi Shuliang also learned about the He family's affairs from Grandma Qi San, so he kept watching without making a sound. If it was a serious and sincere relative, Hijinyu would not be able to kick the person out. Furthermore, that woman is not a good person at first glance, and her thoughts are not right. Wu Qifen knocked on the door several times, but it still didn't open, so she cursed and left. He Tian made a simple dinner and divided it into 2 tables. Hijinyu introduced Huo Jekan to Qi Shuliang, and together with Qi Zhengan, the 4 of them talked about some men's topics. Wang Shuping introduced Zhang Lifang to her mother-in-law, Aunt Lan and Anna, Qi Zhenmin. They are all open-minded people and can talk to each other. At around 7 o'clock, Qi Shuliang took a group of people to the hotel. When Hijinyu saw that his mother was not willing to live here, he did not force her and sent her to the guest house before returning. He hasn't been home for a long time and wants to live at home. Wang Shuping and He Tian were cleaning at home. Both mother and daughter were hard-working people and could not tolerate any mess. Early the next morning, the family of 3 ate something and went to the guest house. They met up with Bai Qianjiao and others to go to Hejinming's cemetery. The weather was not good, the sky was gray and drizzling. A bit of cool air fell on people's bodies with the drizzle, adding a bit of dampness. Everyone stood in front of the tomb with solemn expressions. Bai Qianjiao, wearing a black windbreaker, stood at the front, bowed 3 times to the tombstone and said, "Jinming, thank you for raising our son." The anger, resentment, and hatred of that year all fade away with the passage of time. When she saw her son's family, Bai Qianjiao didn't complain at all and was very grateful to Hejinming. Without Hejinming, there would be no current son and family of 3. Bai Qianjiao walked aside, and Anna Qi Shuliang came forward with her son and daughter, knelt down, and kowtowed 3 times to the tombstone. "Father, you have a good son and I have a good brother. Thank you. From now on, we brothers will support and help each other. May your soul rest in peace in heaven," Qi Shuliang said, and there was a reason why he knelt down and worshipped. In Kijia village, when worshipping his father, Hejinyu's family also knelt down and worshipped. By the same token, he must not lose his etiquette. Then came Huo Jekan and Zhang Lifang, and they bowed. An hour later, the worship service ended. They had lunch at the guest house. "Jingyu, we have a train at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Please take care and see you later." Bai Qianjiao was a little reluctant to leave. She looked at her son, then her daughter-in-law and her granddaughter. Hejinyu felt reluctant to leave, but he also knew that the separation was imminent, so he could only say, "Mom, please take care of yourself, make arrangements for Tian, and we will go find you." "Okay, okay." Bai Qianjiao's eyes were filled with mist, and she couldn't help but shed 2 lines of tears. "Take care, mother," Wang Shuping said. "So are you." Bai Qianjiao nodded, "Everyone is fine." He Tian stepped forward, hugged Bai Qianjiao, and said, "Grandma, take care of yourself. I will visit you when the political environment becomes more relaxed in the future." "Okay," Bai Qianjiao said, "since you have chosen this love, then love it vigorously. But you have to promise us that no matter what, you must protect yourself, and you cannot lose yourself because of love and forget that there is still a lot of love around you. Your people. Yeah, I know, he Tian said, Grandma, I remember it. When they arrived at the train station, Qi Zhenmin said reluctantly, Sister Tian, I will miss you. I will miss you too, he Tian said, study hard and make progress every day. Okay, Qi Zhenmin tilted his head, actually, I want to say, Sister Tian, you are actually more beautiful than me. You will be the most beautiful girl, and I will be the second. When everyone heard this, they laughed. When you grow up, I will give you the title of the most beautiful woman, he Tian pinched Qi Zhenmin's little face. This girl is so cute. It's a deal. Qi Zhenmin took it seriously, hoping that she could be so beautiful in the future. In the words of my grandmother, Sister Tianation's beauty no longer needs clothes or jewelry to set off her beauty. By the way, she also learned a poem that can be used to describe Sister Tian. If you want to compare the West Lake to the West, it is always better to put on heavy makeup and light makeup. The group slowly boarded the train and waved goodbye from the window. Besides, moreover, amidst the sound of the train moving, the speed became faster and faster. In everyone's sight, the long green train became smaller and smaller until it turned into a small dot and disappeared into the distance. The cold wind made He Tian shiver. He Tian saw that her father had been staring in the direction of the train leaving without taking his eyes away. Dad, let's go home, He Tian said. Her father must be even more reluctant to let go than they are now. He Jingyu rubbed his face with his hands, wiped away his tears, and said, Okay, let's go home. Huo Jekan and Zhang Lifang had other things to do, so they went to their respective units. He Jingyu returned home with his wife and daughter. Sneeze, He Jingyu sneezed loudly. Wang Shuping quickly cooked ginger soup. After He Jingyu drank 2 bowls, he sweated and went to bed to sleep. Hearing their father's snoring, He Tian and Wang Shuping looked at each other and smiled, and the mother and daughter walked outside. Mom, a lot of things have happened in our family this year, He Tian said. Fortunately, they are all good things. Yes, Wang Shuping said with a smile, it's not easy for a mother-in-law, a woman abroad. Hey, we're in a dilemma, He Tian said. Sometimes she really wanted to go to country M and come back after reform and opening up. Just doing this, on the one hand, she was worried that she would not pass the review, and on the other hand, she was worried that after leaving the country, she and Huo Yingzhe would be separated again due to external reasons. Wang Shuping patted her daughter's hand and said softly, you don't have to be embarrassed. Yingzhe is a good boy and deserves what we do. If Yingzhe is not good, your father and I will take you and leave with your grandmother. It's okay now, your father and I will take advantage of 2 or 3 years to plant the peach trees in Kijia village. Xi and Xiaozuo, hello, pretender. She made a wish to have a husband in the world, and his multiple disguised identities as the Black Owl Emperor fulfilled her dream and left no residue behind. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 431. 429. After listening to her mother's words, He Tian felt better. Mom, how long can we stay in Nanji this time? He Tian asked. Huo Yingzhe wasn't here, and she didn't want to stay in Nanji. Your father and I are fine here. We will leave tomorrow morning, Wang Shuping said. There are still many things to do in Kijia village in winter. We can't leave for too long. He Tian nodded. She also wanted to go back to Kijia village. She always felt deserted in Nanji. In the evening, Huo Jekan and Zhang Lifang came over for dinner after get off work. When they came back this time, He Tian and Wang Shuping brought a lot of dry goods to Zhang Lifang, most of them in their pockets, as well as a few dried pheasants and wild rabbits. "You're leaving tomorrow, are you in such a hurry?" Zhang Lifang asked. She was busy with work recently and couldn't spare time to spend time with her mother and daughter. "There's nothing wrong here anyway. It's better to go back and finish things before winter comes," He Jingyu said. He still had to cultivate seedlings, so there was no need to delay. After hearing this, Huo Jekan thought of what he had discussed with his wife yesterday. "Jingyu, Yingzhe went to participate in an important project and won't be able to come back for the new year this year. Seeing that Tian Tian is about to get old enough, Li Fang and I thought about deciding on the marriage of our two children as soon as possible," Huo Jekan said. "His son is not here. As parents, you have to get things done at this time. How about we stop waiting and get engaged when Yingzhe comes back?" Wang Shuping said softly. "Shuping, I know you are reluctant to let go of your daughter, but I also want to marry my daughter-in-law as soon as possible," Zhang Lifang said angrily, taking out a small box and opening it. "I looked at the calendar, today is a good day, my engagement ceremony is I've already brought it, even if I'm cheating, I'm still going to get married. Yes, don't worry. We, husband and wife, have watched Tian Tian grow up, and they are no different from our own children," Huo Jekan said. "The sooner we get engaged, the sooner we can settle down. Otherwise, we will always be together. Hold on, Tian Tian is so good, but we can't help but cry to death if we look down on this stupid son who only knows about research." Yes, Zhang Lifang agreed. Tian Tian came over to pour tea and heard that Uncle Huo and Aunt Zhang were discussing an engagement with their parents. She was too embarrassed to go in and stopped bringing tea. She hid in the kitchen and sat by the stove to warm herself up without saying anything. "Since brother Huo and sister Zhang have said so, we won't say more," He Jingyu said. "Okay, we will get engaged today. As for the marriage, as long as Yingzhe's marriage report is approved, we will agree to get married." In the past, He Jingyu would have wanted to keep his daughter for a few more years, but now that the Huo family is at its peak, there are many people staring at the Huo family. The Huo family is worried that their daughter will look down on Huo Yingzhe, which is self-effacing. At the same time, He Jingyu was also worried that the Huo family was becoming more and more powerful and looked down on Tian Tian. "Jingyu, you are so refreshing this time," Huo Jekan said. "Okay, you can keep this engagement ceremony and hand it over to Tian Tian." "Okay," He Jingyu said, "it's all for the sake of the children. As a couple, we have a daughter. We hope that our daughter can be happy." "Yes, I don't ask for anything else," Wang Shuping said. "We can rest assured that we will be your in-laws." He Jingyu just thought Huo Yingzhe was good. Instead of finding someone whom he didn't know and didn't know, it would be better to find his childhood sweetheart. Now my daughter and Huo Yingzhe are not only childhood sweethearts, but also like each other. It is a match made in heaven. After getting engaged, the Huo couple saw that it was getting late, so they said goodbye and left, and said they would see them off tomorrow. After the Huo couple left, Wang Shuping opened the box, and inside was a crystal clear phoenix pendant, usually a pair, and the groom's family left the dragon pendant. "Jingyu, the Huo family actually has such good things," Wang Shuping exclaimed. "Look at it quickly." He Jingyu took it and looked at it carefully, nodded and said, "It's a good thing. When you give it to Tian Tian later, remind her to keep it well and don't break it." "Yes, Tian Tian is careless. If this thing is broken, it is unlucky," Wang Shuping said, carefully putting away the phoenix pendant. "It is a matter of her daughter's life, so she cannot be careless at all." When He Tian Tian came in, Wang Shuping handed the box to He Tian Tian and said, "Tian Tian, this is an engagement gift from the Huo family. You can keep it yourself. But the things are very expensive, so you have to be careful." "Oh, I know, thank you, Mom," He Tian Tian whispered, blushing, taking the box, entering her room, locking the door, and then opening it to see what it was. The crystal clear jade pendant has a phoenix flying with its wings spread out, lifelike. No wonder my mother said that this thing was very valuable and asked her to keep it well. At this time, the Snake King came out of the enchantment space and said, "What is that in your hand?" Hetianation's face turned slightly red and she said, "It's my engagement day." Engagement? Snake King's voice was too high and a bit shrill. "Yeah, but don't worry, I won't get married until you survive the 9 heavens." Mysterious thunder, He said sternly, and then showed a flattering smile, "But, Snake King, you have to work hard too. Come on. You can't wait until I'm 70 or 80 to get married. How will I have children then?" "Huh," Snake King snorted arrogantly. He wasn't even married yet, but he was thinking about giving birth to a baby for Huo Yingja. "Snake King, please. Look at how miserable I was in my previous life, and how hard I have worked so hard in this life, so you can't help but give me a good ending, right?" He lamented, "Help me, you can do anything." The Snake King. "Okay," the Snake King said. It felt that it had an inexplicable affection for He He couldn't tell what it was. Deep in his heart, he was both afraid and curious about this throbbing. However, every time he saw Hetianation's pleading expression, the Snake King could not refuse. "Thank you, King Snake." He smiled and said, "After I go back, I will personally eat more and cultivate more holy blood, so that you can have more holy blood for your cultivation. In this case, I can go home and reunite with my family, and I can get married and have children as soon as possible. Days like this feel beautiful just thinking about them." Hetianation's smile was so dazzling that the Snake King didn't want to look at it, so he opened his mouth and bit the jade pendant, and entered the space barrier. He was stunned and hurriedly shouted, "Snake King, my jade pendant." "I can borrow it to see if it's okay," Snake King said angrily, throwing the jade pendant on the ground of the space barrier. However, the jade seemed to fall on a spring and bounced a few times without breaking. An ordinary jade pendant would have been smashed to pieces a long time ago, so it is impossible for it to behave like this. Such a strange phenomenon attracted the attention of the Snake King. Recommended Twanza 123 new article, Ancient Counterattack Strategy, 3-star God of War travels through ancient times, just go ahead and do it without saying a word. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 432. 430. The Snake King narrowed his eyes, turned into a human form, squatted down his chubby body, and picked up the jade pendant that fell on the ground. "Just now I felt that this jade pendant was a bit strange," the Snake King muttered. He could feel a strong spiritual energy from this jade pendant, which was constantly emanating from the jade pendant from afar. It is particularly helpful for its cultivation. The Snake King held the jade pendant in his palm, closed his eyes, and began to use the human form to meditate and practice, which was twice the result with half the effort and made rapid progress. He was very worried about her jade pendant outside, but she thought that although the Snake King had a bad temper, he was not the kind of unreasonable person and should not damage her jade pendant. Thinking of this, He chose to believe the Snake King. Engaged, this is also a progress. Huo Yingja has been labeled as her fiancé. I just don't know where Huo Yingja is working hard, and he must not know that they are engaged. Good mood, good sleep. He sweet dreams, good dreams. The things of the family of 3 were packed up yesterday. After breakfast in the morning, they could leave. Who knew that just after breakfast, when they were about to leave, the door of the house was pushed open. Who is He Jingyu? A fierce man led a group of people holding big character posters and marched into the courtyard of the He family. He Jingyu was stunned. He didn't know what happened, but such a scene was still fresh in his memory. He was afraid and frowned and asked, "Who are you? Why did you come to my house? What do you want to see me for? Are you He Jingyu?" The strong man looked at He Jingyu and looked him up and down. He was just a weak scholar. I'm looking for you. Hijinyu shook his head and said, nothing. Only a few people knew about my mother's affairs, just because they didn't want to cause trouble. But when my mother appeared in Nanshi just now, someone reported it. Isn't this too coincidental? Seeing this, He Tiantian knew that this strong man was a thorn in the side, and it would not have a good result just to argue. Uncle Huo, Aunt Zhang, He Tiantian shouted to the next door. Uncle Huo should not be at work at this time. Huo Jekan, who was in the next yard, heard the sound in the house, quickly put on his clothes and ran over. But today, this troublemaker fell into his hands. He would make him lose a layer of skin if he didn't die. Yang Wu, you are so arrogant. Aren't you afraid that the wind will flick your tongue? Huo Jekan scolded. There are some things you don't know at all, so don't make up stories and make trouble. This is not the place for you to come. Get out quickly. I won't hold you accountable for the past. Yang Wu was also stunned when he saw Huo Jekan. He seemed to have seen this person in a meeting in the city before. Are you leader Huo? Yang Wu asked nervously and uncertainly. Even if he had seen him from a distance and had never dealt with him. It's me. This is my work permit. Do you want to check it? Huo Jekan squinted his eyes, and his sharp eyes seemed to be able to penetrate Yang Wu's body. Hello, leader Huo, I don't know Taishan. Please forgive me. Yang Wu said with a smile. His immediate superior had some conflicts with Huo Jekan last time. He dared not offend Huo Jekan and ask for credit from his superior. Otherwise, he would fail to get credit and become cannon fodder instead. It was not easy for him to get to his current position from a small gangster. He could not capsize in the gutter and never turn over again. Your behavior today was rude and violated the regulations. Huo Jekan was relentless. I will report your work attitude and situation to your leader. Don't, Yang Wu was anxious. Mayor Huo, I didn't mean it. Someone reported it, He Jingyu frowned. Who reported me? I am now an agricultural expert supporting Huai City, Anhui Province. I came to Nan City because of something at home. Who would report me? Huo Jekan looked at Yang Wu with his eyes slanted and said coldly, I think you are talking nonsense. Deputy Mayor Huo is very tasteful and will never ask. If Yang Wu is smart, he will definitely tell it automatically. Yang Wu can get to this point now. He is also discerning and bullies the weak and fears the strong. He Jingyu heard this, veins on his forehead were exposed, and he gritted his teeth and said, that Wu Qifen was a relative of my grandmother's hometown before liberation, and she came to our house. During the massacre, my father was not at home, and only my elderly grandmother was there. Wu Qifang didn't care about my grandmother's life or death, and looted everything in our house. Since then, our family has been penniless and can only rely on my father's salary to make ends meet. If you don't believe it, you can go to their house and search, and you will probably find old things from the past. Yang Wu is just a small leader, who only wants to make a profit and has not investigated carefully. Now that Deputy Mayor Huo is here, Yang Wu recognizes the situation and hurriedly said, Comrade, he is right. We have investigated it clearly. Those people are framing you. We accept your report and will search Wu Qifang's house now, Yang Wu said with a stiff face, bowed to Huo Jekan, and didn't dare to say much. He ran away with more than a dozen people behind him. Several people looked at the empty yard and were quite speechless. He Jingyu is a researcher and doesn't understand politics. Huo Jekan asked him to leave, and He Jingyu left as soon as possible. Leave this place of trouble and return to Kijia village, a paradise, as soon as possible. Okay, I'll take the train today and leave immediately, He Jingyu said. Thank you for your hard work here. It's okay, it's still under control. Huo Jekan smiled. After something like this happened, I have to go to work as soon as possible and can't see you off.